What is going on, Halo fans? Luke the Notable here, and today we're going to be talking about a few deck building strategies that you can implement whenever you're building your deck in Halo Wars 2. Over the last couple days, I've been showing you some of the decks that I've been using, and I'm going to give you some tips when you're building your own deck, because you can use the builds that I've been talking about on my channel. If you haven't seen those, go check them out, but you can also build your own deck. The first step is you want to make sure to understand the cards that you have. To inspect cards in the deck editor, hold the left trigger, or you can just press the left trigger, and you can understand the cards better when you look at them this way. You can see what they are good against. This one is an anti-infantry unit. It's a flamethrower, of course. And you can also obviously understand, if you look at underneath the picture of the Hellbringer, you can see that the personnel is green, vehicles is red, and there is nothing under the air. So these guys are only good against personnel or infantry. And you want to do this for your entire collection. You want to do this for your entire collection of cards, because sometimes you may get a new card, not notice it, or you may get a card and you don't notice that it does a certain thing. You may not understand how a certain card works, and understanding your cards can be incredibly helpful. One thing that I learned recently was that the Nightingale can actually support your units with a defensive smoke. I did not know that Nightingale had the power of defensive smoke that allowed you to cloak your units. What I was using it for is I was shooting this defensive smoke at the enemies because I thought it maybe clouded them and they couldn't see. But I now know that whenever I'm using the Nightingale and I use its powers, I need to use it on my units to cloak them. So you just want to go through all of your cards that you have gotten and just look at them. Understand your cards. Understand what you have, and use and pick the cards that are going to work best in your deck once you fully understand them. And you may think, oh, Luke, well, I know my cards. Just go through them. Just go through them. Humor me. You may find something that you don't know. Second thing you want to do is you want to kind of prioritize things that have a higher level. I asked some 343 guys what level means and what it does for your card. They weren't able to answer me, so maybe they just don't want to tell us, or they just really don't know. What I'm assuming is that every level, like Halo Wars 1, adds an extra 15% health, damage, armor. So a Vulture at level 2, like my card is, let me just inspect this card right here, will have not only a huge amount of health for base, but will also have an extra 15% bonus to its health and armor, making this card incredibly powerful. If I were to take this Vulture and put it up against a Vulture that was level 1, mine would win every single time. It's objectively better. The next tip I have for you is one quality you'll see in all my deck builds is you need to have some speed in your deck. You need to have something like a Jackrabbit or a Warthog, and this will allow you to go around the map and blitz and take any energy that might be on the map. If your entire deck is things like the Cyclops, Sniper, or Wolverine that are generally pretty slow, you're not going to be able to get energy and you're going to lose in the long run. One reason the Shipmaster is really good is he actually has access to both the Chopper and Ghost. He has access to both of these units where the other Covenant leaders do not. He is the only one that gets two very low cost, fast units. Not to mention that he also has access to the Marauder and Prowling Marauder, which is one of the reasons why the Shipmaster, at least in my opinion, is one of the fastest decks in the game. When you're building your deck, throughout the deck you want to press right trigger to pull up deck stats, and this will allow you to kind of look at, what level your deck is at and how it's going to fare against other decks. Right now, if you look at unit counters, I can see that I don't have a lot of power against air units, so I may want to put something in there like Marines or ODSTs, something that can help me fight air units better. You also want to have a deck that's fairly low cost. If you look at the right side of your screen on the graph, you can see most of my things fall under 100 energy to wreck out. The only things that are over that are the 10 and 11 spots, and that just means the 10th and 11th spot in your deck. So if you come back to this main screen, you can see in 10 and 11 we have the Scorpion and the Vulture. It's a little bit of a confusing graph. Hopefully they changed that for the real game, because that was a little bit confusing to find out. So my deck is generally low cost, and while I might be able to do pretty well with just the Scorpion and the Vulture, I like to have some overkill, and I generally like to go, if I have a pretty low cost deck, with the Condor Strike, because it is pretty hard to stop, especially late game. And if you don't have enough supplies for it, you can just cycle that. You can see here my deck has a pretty average amount of energy, most of them being under 100, but late game at those 10, 11, and 12 spots, you can see that I can pull a lot of wreck. I keep saying wreck. Warzone has just infected my brain. You can pull a lot of energy cards. Should have just called it wreck mode. And the last thing you want to look at is your starting army. Now, you can press Y on your deck screen to change this. This will change in the bottom left. You can see here I can change from heavy weapons or hacker. What I like to generally do is this is the army you're going to get at the start. And I think at the start you need to be as fast as possible. So I generally will go with the faster option. Now, this option gives me 2 wild jackrabbits that explode on contact and 1 hornet. That is obviously the faster option than 1 powerful warthog and 2 marines. So I generally will go with the faster option. What's interesting is some leaders do have more powerful options, like Atriox has the option between 2 banshees and a marauder, and all of these units for bulletproof. And sometimes you may want to go with those if maybe you're playing 2v2 with a friend. Get together, build some decks together, and have a strategy together. Maybe one person will be the one that's very fast, playing maybe a Shipmaster deck, and then another person will have like a Siege type deck with Atriox or Decimus. Atriox is pretty good at Siege, using things like the Ironclad Wraith or the Spike Turret and Wraith, and he gets things like Ironclad Hunters, a lot of things that can soak up damage, especially with Atriox Bulwark, which makes things invulnerable for certain periods of time. What I'm trying to say here is there's lots of strategies. As a 1v1 person, you can just build your deck, make it as fast as possible, but there's a lot of strategies here that you can implement in team games and 3v3. I haven't really had a chance to do a lot of that yet, and if you haven't seen my deck on how to build this great early game level 1 Shipmaster deck, you should check that out, probably on screen at this point. You can also subscribe to get some more awesome Halo Wars 2 content. I've really been trying to pump out a lot of content for Halo Wars 2, show you guys how to do this right. Thank you all for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't seen me before, and I'll see you in the next video. Stay notable.